Here's Bud Aldrin when he's asked about the swear on the Bible. Is this how people act? I mean, he was just asking from the swear on the Bible that he went to the moon. You see what he did. I'm sure about that. We can see that their stories are all over the place. Some can always see the stars, others can't. Some can see it when the sun is out, others can't. So what is the truth? You can't find it because no one has ever went into space as we know it. That is why all their stories are different and never match up. Let's see. How about moon rocks? Surely moon rocks are proof, right? It sure is. Proof that they never went to the moon or that trees once inhabited the moon because, guess what? They're petrified wood. Here it is from space.com telling you that the moon is in the museum or just petrified wood. What about the message that says about the moon landings? Well, they lost all the telemetry data, so there is no data to prove they went there. You cannot get their telemetry data. They destroyed all the technology. I don't even know what that means. I mean, we got better technology than, of course, we did in the 60s. What do they mean they destroyed all the technology? And they forgot about the Van Allen belts. Those are the radiation belts that go around us. They still don't know how they got through them, but now they're having problems saying they got to figure it out. And here, don't listen to me. Here's NASA that will tell you that.
In a nanosecond. The problem is we don't have the technology to do that anymore. We used to, but we destroyed that technology, and it's a painful process to build it back.
It was all recorded on these telemetry tapes. So where is this hard evidence?
I haven't seen anything that indicates the telemetry data is even in existence. And as I said, even if we had it, we don't have machines to play it back.
But your own research has shown the telemetry data is missing.
That's right.
They something so important as the moon landings. They they would know what that data is, but apparently it's all gone, lost. 14,000 reels, I think. 14,000 reels have mysteriously disappeared. Nobody can find them.
We are headed 3,600 miles above Earth, 15 times higher from the planet than the International Space Station. As we get further away from Earth, we'll pass through the Van Allen belts, an area of dangerous radiation. Radiation like this can harm the guidance systems, onboard computers, or other electronics on Orion. Naturally, we have to pass through this danger zone twice, once up and once back.
So once again, he explains how they have to, before they can go to Mars, they have to figure out how to get through the Van Allen belts. But if we already been to the moon, they should have had figured that out already, I think. I'm not sure. Okay, I could literally spend a week on presenting the case against the moon landings. That is, there is much content showing that the complete fakery of it. People have dedicated years to analyzing the photos and videos from the moon landings. As we flat Earth like say, don't believe what I tell you, go and research it yourself. Here is a person I will refer to as IPS, or Infinite Plane Society. He likes to portray other people, such as calling himself Mark Sargent, as in this video. Although his character is certainly in question, he did go to the Albuquerque town hall meeting and voice his opinion on the space bubbles. This is another example of how the flat Earth movement continues to grow.
You got nothing on the screen. Oh, there we go.
Down. And that'll be followed by Donald Couchman and Eric Schultz. I said, welcome.
Hello, the name is Mark Sargent. That's another one. That's going to be a tough act to follow, but I'll do my best. Okay, I just wanted to draw, council members, thank you for listening. I want to draw your all's attention to what may be an extremely egregious example of malfeasance, and just to help illustrate the gravity of the situation, imagine if the federal government gave $19.5 billion to Hollywood. I think we'd all be pretty upset by this. Well, there's a growing body of evidence that the International Space Station is not in outer space, but it's being filmed in a desalinated pool down here on Earth, and it's being falsely misrepresented. And this started with this phenomenon known as bubbles in space. If you search for it, you'll see many of these so-called spacewalks, which have been falsely misrepresented as live, as has been exposed many times on Facebook when they do their live ISS feeds. Bubbles out in space. Well, there's not supposed to be water up there. And it is known that the astronauts do train in these big underwater tanks. And so this body of evidence, and it's not just bubbles in space, there are harnesses, there are green screens, there are flights that are actually on parabolic flights, not in space. And if this is true, it's a big deal, because that's a lot of money that could be used for our own infrastructure or schools or whatever. So I'm drawing the attention to it because I think it's something that deserves to be looked at. Because if it's true, these bubbles in space might represent the smoking gun in probably the biggest hoax since global warming.
All right, for those y'all can't hear, he went to the Albuquerque Town Hall, or City Council meeting right there, and he basically tried to bring their attention to what is referred to as bubbles in space. Many times when they're doing their so-called spacewalks, there will be bubbles going up. Well, in space you can't have bubbles. And he was trying to bring that attention to them to get them to look at it, because if they are spending $57 million a day to give us supposed live shots from a pool, and everybody knows NASA does their practice. They have a whole ISS scale model in a pool that they practice in. But what they're doing is they're taking those practice and they're superimposing the pictures to make it look like they're in space when they're really not in space. They're in the bottom of the pool. Okay, let's see here, and this is the guy P-Brain, another content creator that is he explains the bubbles and how there's no way that they can claim that it is flakes of paint. That is their excuse. They say flakes of paint, but it's not flakes of paint. And I don't know why the volume is not working for us on here. It's kind of irritating.
So here we are, supposedly on the ISS. This is from the spacewalk. And here's what is a piece of debris, or actually we know it's probably a bubble. Now, we just made a right turn. Do you see that? And I superposed the swimming pool, the NBL, the Neutral Buoyancy Lab, where they practice. Okay, so you can see nothing can make a turn. There has to be zero atmosphere for them to step out of a vehicle moving 17,500 miles per hour. There can be absolutely no atmosphere at all, not even ruffle a feather or hair on their head if they were exposed, anything exposed. So right there is busted. It cannot make a turn like that. So every object in motion that's not tethered has to travel in a straight line. Here's another double. This is from a long time ago. Many of you have seen this already. Now, they would claim it's a piece of ice or debris. It can't curve. It can't make turns. Objects cannot zigzag in a weightless vacuum. And then here's underwater, the Neutral Buoyancy Lab. And here's what you would expect because of the currents in the pool, right? There, that just made a little left turn. Did you see that? Also, the astronaut's causing a little drag as he backs up, and that pulls the debris. There's filtration systems. That's what we're seeing in the spacewalk. Sorry. That's the way it is.
All right, so basically what he showed was that these things that are bubbles, that we have termed bubbles in space, they try and say it's paint flecks, but if paint is flaking off the ISS at that rate, I think they need to rethink about how they're painting things. But as we can see, it doesn't matter if it's a paint speck, a bubble, or anything. In the vacuum of space, you cannot have irregular movements like that. It has to be a straight line trajectory. There's no way you can get irregular movements in the vacuum of space. Okay. I can remember Admiral Byrd in videos about Hollow Earth. Before Flat Earth came on the scene, I used to set up, I used to eat up all the space and alien videos. Admiral Byrd had left a diary, to which it's shrouded in mystery like everything else, with erased pages and edited words. His Hollow Earth story can be likened to the story of the journey through the middle of the Earth. Because serious doubts have been raised about his diary, you can't think of that as any evidence. Knowing what I know now, though, I wouldn't be surprised if this was just a disinfo ploy to counter the reality of what Admiral Byrd said about the South Pole. This is the video clip that Flat Earthers are referring to when they talk about Admiral Byrd. I'm not saying it is proof of anything, but he certainly has a very weird way of saying land around the South Pole. It almost seems as if he is talking about another landmass besides Antarctica.
Admiral Byrd, our guest tonight, is not only our greatest living explorer, but he's been an inspiration to countless Americans. Admiral Byrd, you've been to both the North Pole and the South Pole. Is there any unexplored land left on this Earth that might appeal to adventurous young Americans?
Yes, there is. And not up around the North Pole, because it's getting crowded up there now, because they find out it's really usable. Not only to live in, but militarily. But strangely enough, there's not in the world today an area as big as the United States that's never been seen by a human being. And that's beyond the pole, on the other side of the South Pole, from Little America. And I think it's quite astonishing that there should be an area as big as that unexplored.
So sometimes people take his word, I guess you can take his word for what it was. It does to me sound like he's talking about other land past the South Pole. Is he talking about Antarctica, just land on Antarctica past the South Pole? That's different. But this Admiral Byrd, he also did Operation High Jump. Funny name for an operation. Operation High Jump was when they went to Antarctica to explore. And why did they term it High Jump? My guess is because they were jumping an ice wall. So they termed it Operation High Jump. And also, I don't think he was involved with it. You had another operation called Operation Fishbowl. And these can all be proven. You can look up in government documents. They're not classified. But there's Operation Fishbowl, too, where they shot up atomic bombs and nuclear devices up into the air and exploded them. And they termed it Operation Fishbowl. If you just look at the words, sometimes they kind of, they love leaving the truth out there in plain sight, as we say. Okay, that's Admiral Byrd. Oh, Antarctica is a mysterious place where only guided tours and research stations are allowed. I actually had this debate with Dave and another person on Facebook. The other person on Facebook would move the goalpost. They told me I could look online for these trips across Antarctica, to which I knew there was none because I had looked many times before and have seen many videos of people doing this. There are 0 trips across the continent. You can take a trip across the peninsula, but that is about it. There are no crossing Antarctic trips to be had. And if you, like him, want to infer that if you called them up, they would magically create this trip for you, I invite you to try that. You set up the trip with an estimate and get the permits working, and I will guarantee we will get the funding. And then we can put this flat earth versus globe debate to rest. Okay, this ZQ map. Here is the so-called current fastest circumnavigation from north to south over the poles. The white line has the route he was supposed to take. The red line is the actual route that he took. Notice that he didn't go over the South Pole. He flew in and then flew back out the same way he went in. And they want to call this circumnavigation. And if you look at every circumnavigation ever, this is about what they do right there. They fly into the South Pole and fly out exactly where they came from. And this, you can look up on Facebook, look up ZQ Pilot. He had the Facebook page, and he was the one that did this. It had nothing to do with flat earth, it had nothing to do with anything, but they say he did the fastest navigation in I think it was a single person planer by himself, solo. The fastest solo navigation around the earth from north to south pole. But as you see, he didn't go across the South Pole, he went in and then came back out, which is just like every other one. Okay, when you start researching, you will come across experiments like the Michelson-Morley, an infrared test that was said to have proved that the ether didn't exist. Motion has never been proven and can never be proven because there's a catch-22 attached. If you could prove Earth's motion, then relativity is proven false. If you haven't given much thought to 20th science, you may be charged to realize that because of the concept of relative motion, no one can prove the Earth moves. Kenny Ferguson, Michigan University, 1999. No physical experiment ever proved that the Earth actually is in motion. All right, an infrared test has said that it can prove the ether didn't exist, but then, truth be told, there isn't all the story, and with everything else, the meaning of this experiment has been twisted and construed to fit the heliocentric narrative. The scientific fact of the M&M data, or Michelson-Morley data, going back there, of the Michelson-Morley data provided the Earth to be stationary, just as every test afterward revealed. But don't take my word on it, please. Definitely not Wikipedia's word on it, what the experiment proved. Here are quotes from the same very people that gave you the theory of relativity telling you what it proved. In an effort to explain the Michelson-Morley experiment, the thought was advanced that the Earth was stationary.